10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you, and I'm thankful that you're here with us on this Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM each and every weekday morning, roughly between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 a.m., just before Earshot Daily. And coming at you live on terrestrial radio. We're also streaming at cklu.ca, along with facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow our social media channels, because we're also not only found live on those two platforms, we're also found on demand afterwards on the show on those two platforms, along with x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our local news aggregator. And we just want to encourage you to comment, get your comments in on those two platforms, Facebook and YouTube, where we're live. And we'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. We have a great show planned for you today. Lots of stuff to squeeze in. There's lots of local news, and there's a lot to talk about in terms of where we're at, and we're continuing our discussion of discussions and the importance of discussing and having our points of view heard, and being able to have our points of view heard, and being able to at least even express your point of view. And there's a large movement out there that wants to not be able to have people have conversations, and this cannot, continue. Like, we need to be able to have conversations, discuss the things we believe, our opinions, and that is freedom of speech, which is a huge human right to be able to have. And there is a movement that wants to package the idea that not everyone should have that right, because some people could say hurtful things and hurt other people with their freedom of speech. And so they want to be able to change laws, which they've already started doing, change laws to make it so that way you're actually breaking a law by sharing your point of view. If they can deem words as violence, then you're committing violence. And, there's things like that. There's lots going on in our society today to pay attention to. So we'll make the case for that towards the end of the show. We'll cover some of the local news, things going on around us, try and make sense of a rather confusing world and getting more confusing by the day, and have a discussion, be able to share our views on the news, which we do each and every morning here on Sudbury News Talk. We've been doing it for over 3 years now in this format, and over 8 years as a talk radio show, starting off as sports talk 8 years ago. And grateful that we made the transition to be able to talk about more things than just sports. It was very limiting, in terms of the content we could talk about, right, and discuss. So here we are, and here's the show. So stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. Lots to talk about. We'll be back right after the weather with your comments and news headlines and more right after this. And as usual, no, we're just going to do this. As usual, Sudbury Weather is brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. Not Sudbury Sports. That was our intro to the sports segment for the show. Currently, it is 24 degrees. Today it's going to be 24 degrees. Currently, it is 10 degrees, partly cloudy. Today we can expect it to be sunny with fog patches dissipating in the morning. High of 24, humidex 27, UV index 6 or high. Tonight, clear. Fog patches developing after midnight with a low of 10. And then tomorrow, mainly sunny. Fog patches dissipating in the morning, high of 25, and the humidex 29. So it'll be feeling like 30 degrees tomorrow. So hot. So today, tomorrow, sunny. And then 30% chance of showers on Thursday with a high of 21. Cooling off, starting to cool off, and then even cooling even more on Friday. Sunny, mix of sun and cloud with a high of 17. High of 18, mix of sun and cloud on Saturday. High of 19 with a mix of sun and cloud on Sunday. And a 30% chance of showers on Monday. High of 19 as well. That's your Sudbury Weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, a few shout-outs this morning as we have a really robust bunch on this morning. Rogue, good morning first to YouTube. Thanks for being with us, along with, so you say court went well. The city ain't steamrolling me. So if you ever want to let me know, if you want me to kind of talk about it more at length, you could email me the situation if you wanted me to talk about what your issue is with the city. You could email me the circumstance and I could easily say it on the show. Judy, good morning to you, as people are interested in how citizens can interact with our city, correct? And Minnick, good morning. Sudbury, shades emoji. Marianne, good morning. Everyone from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji, much needed, much appreciated. Belinda, good morning. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. That could be very well the case, right? Yeah, you got to pay attention to all things. Pay attention to what's being said, what's not being said. You can pay attention to body language as well. Just the vibe you get. There's a vibe to something. There's all kinds of things with communication other than just what you hear. So thanks for that. And it's so true. And Monique, grand rising, heart emoji, exclamation points, much appreciated. And Sudbury Steffi, grand rising all, same to you. And Liette, good morning from Collingwood. Good morning, Liette. I hope everything's going well with you. And Marianne says absolutely 100%. If we no longer have the freedom of speech, there is no, I'll put in true democracy in there. There could be a form of democracy, but again, I don't know. Do we have true democracy? I don't even believe 100% in democracy. I believe more in a republic, more in correct principles that are foundational, that everybody agrees on and then lives that way. Democracies are, you can chip away at those fundamental pillars of principles that you build a nation on, and then everyone votes for things that don't benefit themselves even because they're duped. So that's, to me, the democracy. But I hear what you're saying. I think everyone needs to be able to be heard and have their points of view. But I guess, democracy is better than what's coming. All right, Rogue, they are turning our rights into privileges a little at a time. And you are spot on, Rogan. I don't know how long you've been with the show. I know you've come on just recently in the last while. We talked about that at length before, that the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights and, the principles they've built their republic on, they are supposed to be a republic and not a democracy, but they are a democracy now. In their founding documents, they say that very thing, that God has granted us rights, and no individual has any more rights than another person over another person. We all have the same rights. We all have God-given rights, and we got them at birth on this earth, and we're all the same. So a lot of the woke ideology, or the far left or progressive, whatever you want to call it, saying that we should all be equal. Well, we already were born equal, so we already are inherently equal. So the idea of that is interesting when you look at it, and we will look at it towards the end of the show. We will look at where this kind of ideology has come from, what it's doing to us today. Can we discuss it without, somebody taking our lives? And we'll dig into that a little bit more later. And Bob, good morning to you. Greeting to yous all. And same to you. And David says hate speech, noun, abuse or threatening speech, or writing that expresses prejudice on the basis of ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or similar grounds. Now, where you've taken that definition from, I've heard many definitions of what that is. The government is changing what hate speech is as we speak. They're, proposing bills that will totally change our laws in terms of what hate speech is, and that could very well be the because hate speech, if I was talking about sexual orientation, saying there's only a man and a woman, and if that's deemed hate speech, I don't know what to do, because there's only two genders, scientifically speaking. Now, ideologically speaking, and maybe socially acceptable speaking, it's different. But what are we basing our beliefs on? You know what I mean? I thought we're supposed to trust the science for the last 5 years. And science tells us there's two genders. It's very rare where there's more than one. And my own daughter, actually, who's now passed on, was one of those that had both genders. She had many other complications, and that's why she's no longer with us, but very rare that took place or takes place. Scientifically, there's only two genders, right? So if that's hate speech to say that, I mean, we can discuss people's then decisions based on strong feelings, strong emotions, strong whatever. They were born, they feel in a different body than what they are sexually. This is not an easy discussion. A lot of people get very emotional about it. But scientifically, there's only two genders. Now, you can choose to live out your sexuality in many different ways, as we've seen, and we do see, right? So it's a huge discussion. And just to be able to discuss this, and I'm not discussing it in a hateful way, and I hope everybody can appreciate that, or at least see that that's the case. I'm not just saying I'm not and doing it in a hateful way. I'm actually coming from a good place when I'm discussing this. It's no judgment to anybody for any reason, right? And so, but even this discussion I'm having right now with the new Canadian laws that we're going to be having will be deemed hateful speech just because we're discussing it. And how is that right? How is that right? We just have to learn to discuss things better. How about pass a law that says every Canadian needs to take a course on debating? How about that? and learn to think critically. That'd be a great law. And good morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us. And Pat, good morning, folks. Monique, like and share everyone for sure. Thank you so much for that. We got Miles on the YouTube. I'm having trouble getting the shows on Facebook. My page says the show is closed. Facebook playing games. Possibly. Yeah. And that's their platform to do with what they want. I know they have their own policies on not appreciating discussions. Not sure why. They actually will not monetize this show because we discuss social issues. Can you imagine that? Social media. We will not monetize you if you discuss social issues on your show, on the live feed. So I'm not monetized, and nor do I ever want to plan on that, because I don't want to have my speech changed because I'm thinking, oh, I can't say this or say that because, I'm not going to get any money out of it. Well, that's basically the almost selling your soul basically for money in a way. So this is David. Thanks for chiming in here. There is a big difference, a huge difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. And that is correct. If you're truly hating someone, you need to define that, right? So what I was just saying was, would that be deemed hate speech? Just trying to understand something and set some groundwork based on science, right? You may have an opinion you want to share, but when that opinion spreads hate and lies, it isn't free. I think that's what you meant to say, hate. But good old autocorrect always changes things. And thanks for that comment. And Brenda, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Much appreciated. Thanks for commenting. And Phil, good morning to you. Good morning, Sudbury. Rogue says, what is my email address? Very easy to remember. sudburynews@gmail.com. sudburynews@gmail.com. And that's out there for anyone who wants to send something newsworthy, something you're going through, you want to be discussed on the show, you feel is relevant. It's always there for everyone. That's why it's there. And hello, Sandra. Wow, long time no see or hear. Hope you're doing well. And Monique, exactly. Okay. You got Miles, you're on Facebook now. And you finally got in, but now it's a frozen screen. Okay. Looks like we're not frozen over here at the moment. Maybe we were for a bit. I'm not sure. Monique says, if someone is on the world stage, it's because they were put there to fulfill a role. There are no heroes on the world stage. That's the cold, hard facts or cold, hard truth. Okay, and Phil, our elected representatives aren't accountable to us. See the little child case. Interesting. Little child case. Always new things that I'm hearing on the show. Thank you so much, guys, for being so informed on different issues and things like that. Facebook's still frozen. Interesting. Radio app still hears you. And Google Online, Radio Box, folks, and still comment here when Facebook plays games. Interesting. So Google Online Radio Box. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Look at that. 2 things in a row. Rogue says Canada's constitution is built upon the supremacy of God and the rule of law. And that is true. You are right. You are right. Apparently there's some things in Canadian law that are interesting, though. If you look at it, it's not as bulletproof, to not come up with any other term, than the American one. And I even heard our Charter of Rights and Freedoms was only made for federal employees. So don't take that as whatever that I'm saying that's exactly what it is, but that's what I heard. So I have to look more into that. And Trad Life, good morning to you. Thanks for being on, Jerome. I'll try saying good morning again. How's it going, eh? Good morning, Jerome. You shared a video yesterday, and I'm thinking I wanted to play it as we get into our deep dive today. So let's just dive into some local stories here. There's lots to cover in a short period of time now. So coming from our local news aggregator, we'll start with this local. Okay, no, what happened to the story I was just looking at? Okay, so starting off with this particular story, which is close to me. I was close with the family here. Killer who dismembered teenage Sudbury girl gets day parole. Christopher LaValle murdered Whitney Vanderwouden in 2009, and she was just 15 years old. Just 15 years old. So he's now getting day parole. 2009, 2019 is 10 years, so 17 years later, he's out on day parole. Again, right? I remember Tom Price being on, and I said the legal system, and he said, I'm glad you said legal system and not justice system. It doesn't sound like we get justice in our legal system all the time, and I think this is one of these cases. This particular young lady was out at a fire with friends she thought were her friends, and they just decided to end her life and dismember her. I'm not sure what led to that, and I'm not sure what goes through someone's mind to be able to do such a horrific thing, but that's what happened. And this particular person is now out on day parole. 16 short years. I said 17, but 16 short years after that, right? Oh no, sorry. Yeah, 16 years. It doesn't seem right for some reason. In other news, here's a letter to the Sudbury Star. Greater Sudbury failing to make downtown safe, a business leader says. And then they want you to take a poll. So I'd encourage everyone to take the Sudbury Star's poll. Unless security is stepped up, it will drive people and businesses away from the downtown core, she says. So there's more on that. And I would encourage everyone to take that poll. We have many, many people on the show who have sentiments that downtown doesn't feel safe to them. It never has. And Lee, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Got a few people on this morning that we don't see for the first time, which is great, or haven't seen for a while. So thanks for being on. Downtown Sudbury, do you think it's headed in the right direction? You can go and take the poll from Sudbury.com. Sudbury Star. Sudbury Star is doing that poll. Interesting story. A woman hit a dead moose on Highway 17 and rolled the car. I guess someone had previously hit the moose, and they were on the shoulder of the road as they were investigating it. I'm not sure why they didn't move the moose from the road to prevent something like this. But anyways, the lady was charged with impaired driving, unfortunately. And Sudbury the speed cameras may be a thing that's going away at some point, but Ontario municipalities urge Ford to reconsider plan to ditch speed cameras. The association representing Ontario's municipalities is urging Premier Doug Ford to reconsider his plan to get rid of automated speed cameras, saying it will put pedestrians at risk. So I love this again, and I'm just going to make this point. If I hadn't made it enough about these speed cameras, here's a good time to make it. So you can see the Ontario municipalities are saying that not having the speed cameras, what's the reason why they don't want to stop it? It's because it's going to put pedestrians at risk. So again, they use something that has to do with safety as the reason why we're having these speed cameras. So this is what you have to do. You now, since they're using that as the reason, you need to show us the statistics that show how pedestrians are safer now that we have speed cameras. You need to do that, right? So you need to show within the areas that you have the speed cameras at a similar time frame. So let's say you have them from March till September at a particular place in 2025. You need to show in 2024 statistics from March to September. How many pedestrians were harmed? Show any year. Show any year. 2023, 2022. Just show a year when there were not speed cameras and show how many incidents we had where pedestrians were harmed. Okay. And then show how they were not harmed when we had the speed cameras. That's how you show the reason you're giving as the reason you need speed cameras. That's the right way to do it. You don't just say, no, we have statistics that people slowed down. Okay, well, yeah, people slowed down. No, you're saying it's to not have pedestrians at risk, right? So you got some homework to do there, I would say. And if you can prove that and then make your case to the citizens who are paying a lot of taxes to drive on those streets that you're putting those cameras on, to then fine them even more money, because this, as the Ontario Premier has said, he considers it to be a tax grab, not keeping pedestrians safe. I think we have more evidence that it's a tax grab than it is. It's a money grab than it is something to keep the citizens safe. It's keeping the money rolling out of their pockets into city coffers. There's evidence of that. Like, we can show that. We can say in 2024, $0 were made on this section of road between March and September. But in 2025, $150,000 was collected. So you can show that. So now can you show, okay, in 2024, between March and September, 2 pedestrians were hit and harmed critically or whatever. And in 2025, 0 were hit. So that's what you have to do. You have to give evidence of the reason why you're saying you need these speed cameras. The only evidence we see right now is that a lot of money has been collected and people slow down. Well, they slow down so they don't have to pay money. But is it actually making anything safer? You can't just say they've slowed down, so it means it's safer. Enough of that. Okay, I know you're going to keep doing it, thinking that people will just, and some people do, just take that and they're happy with it. Okay, and speaking of speaking and how people speak these days and why people think it's dangerous to speak and people are, not allowed to speak or their lives are ended because they're speaking, there's lots going on here, right? Lots going on. And what is going on? And why don't we hear about it? Well, first of all, did you know that our, maybe we'll end with that if we got time. Yeah, first of all, here you go. Now we'll get what's happening in our society from just a regular person, right? This is somebody who wants to find things that are going on and think for himself. But society's got it. Some people call it a mind virus. Some people call it, just wrong thinking. Some people call it university indoctrination, Marxism packaged in a new way. And that's what I think it is. So let's just listen to this gentleman and we'll...
Well, I think I'm finally able to define what it is I've been experiencing for close to 10 years now whenever I get into a conversation with someone who is woke. Now, I don't mean someone who's liberal. I mean someone who is proudly woke. You see, I'm trying to debate, and they are trying to diagnose. Let me give you an example. Let's say I were to say something crazy like, I'm open to immigration, I just think it should be legal. I also think we need a strong border and we need significant immigration reform before we continue. Oh, so you're xenophobic. No, I don't have an irrational fear or hatred toward other people or cultures, but I do believe that culture matters. And if you're coming from a cultural tradition which has very, very different customs, traditions, and legal standards than the United States, well, that might not be the best for social cohesion, especially when it comes in the form of mass illegal immigration. Oh, so you're racist. No, I don't believe in the inherent superiority or inferiority of any person based off of their race. I think people should be judged based off of their individual actions and character. But let me give you an example to clarify my position. If you were to mass import people from a country where they believe that it's perfectly reasonable to criminally prosecute women for showing their hair in public, that might not lead to the best blending with American society. You get what I mean? Oh, yeah, so you're Islamophobic. Okay, I see what you're doing now. This is not about even trying to understand my arguments or perspective. This is all about trying to incorrectly diagnose me so you can then ignore all of my arguments and perspectives. And if that's what you're going to do, what's the point in talking to you?
So that's basically what I've encountered. I've talked about at length on the show, kind of thing. We get it from some people who just pop on here and there to have troll-like behaviors or whatever, instead of actually having the conversation about what we're talking about and really unwrapping it and trying to not be divided in our society. They seem to, just try and poke at people who are on the show and discredit them, and they have an agenda for being on the show rather than just actually trying to have a conversation and understand the world that they're in. They almost seem they already understand it, like they know everything. And that's weird because nobody knows everything. I've never met anyone who knows everything. So you're just trying to understand things. People are very hard-nosed about what they believe. It's this way. That's why I asked, where did you get that definition from? There's many definitions on what hate speech is. Try getting a definition of anything. There's many different ones, many different dictionaries. Google will give you one. ChatGPT will give you a different one. Grok will give you a different one. All the different AIs will give you different definitions, and different dictionaries will give you different definitions, of the same thing. So which one is correct? Again, right? So you have to get the gist of what it is. Now, our governments, when they come in and they make laws and they define it, well, that's a whole other thing when they make something a law and they define it as such, right? But this is the thing people get. It's like, oh, I think immigration needs to be, modified. Oh, you're a racist. No. You know what I mean? It's not that. It's like, the left seems to use compassion as their Trojan horse. They want everyone to be nice and compassionate. And in the name of niceness and compassion, you need to throw out all understanding of principles and facts. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But there is a reason for it, and this might be it.
And woke ideology always sounds noble. Compassion, justice, equality, and progress. But progress towards what? That's the question nobody ever seems to ask. To understand modern leftism, especially in its woke form, we need to go back nearly 200 years. Ideas evolve much like viruses. As society builds immunity to one bad idea, academics, the gain-of-function scientists of ideology, tinker with it until it mutates into something more contagious, more destructive, and harder to detect. It started with Hegel, who proposed the dialectic, a process where two opposing ideas, thesis and antithesis, collide to form a new idea, synthesis. This became the engine of supposed progress. Marx took that framework and applied it to economics, dialectical materialism. In his view, society was a class struggle between haves and have-nots. He believed revolution was inevitable. Workers would rise up, destroy capitalism, and create a communist utopia. To the left, progress means the oppressed overthrowing the oppressors. But Marx's vision flopped. So Vladimir Lenin, the founder of the Soviet Union, retooled it. He argued the have-nots weren't going to rise up on their own. They needed to be led by elites who could radicalize them. Then came the idea of perpetual revolution. Once one oppressor is toppled, the new ruling class becomes the next enemy. It never ends, and that's the point. When this too failed in the West, the Frankfurt School revamped Marxism yet again. They noticed that capitalism's material success inoculated workers against revolution, so they turned their sights on culture, education, media, churches, the arts. They called it the long march through the institutions. If they couldn't radicalize people economically, they'd do it socially and spiritually, slowly, generationally. Then came the postmodernists, who declared that power doesn't just exist between rich and poor, it exists everywhere. Between man and woman, white and black, straight and gay, fit and fat, colonizer and colonized. All relationships are power struggles. The personal became political. Finally, intersectionality emerged. It claimed oppression isn't one-dimensional, it's a matrix. Every identity adds a new layer of victimhood. The more layers, the more moral authority. This is how we've arrived at our current ideological caste system. For instance, the ultimate proletariat is now a fat, old, disabled, single, black, Muslim, trans woman who is a lesbian from a third world country with no education, low income, and residing in a rural area. The final bourgeoisie boss? A middle-aged, married, able-bodied, straight, white, cisgendered, heteronormative Christian Westerner with a degree and a high income living in a city. Modern progressives are really just neo-Marxism in drag.
And Blender always doing a really great job of, digging deep and articulating and doing the research, basically. And I appreciate them so much. I appreciate independent journalists in this country and helping us to think for ourselves and giving us the ability to do that. And it's so unfortunate that someone like Charlie Kirk, that was his whole mission in life, was to go to these universities. That what Blender just talked about is exactly what's being taught in our universities. How do I know? I just came through the university system. I, as an older adult, went back to school and sat through classes where I felt like I was a minority, and they had no problem making me feel like that I was the reason why society was so bad. Being a middle-aged, white, English-speaking, I guess, person who comes from European heritage, I'm the reason why everything's so bad. Patriarchy, you name it. All the things that went along with that. And I had to take it. I had to have people just sit there and just, my classes were mostly female. I was in communications, so that particular field of study was mainly female, right? So they had no problem. I saw one of the comments here, like the left is always talking about compassion. Why don't you lead by example? They talk about it so much, but they have no problem putting people down and being hateful to people who don't believe in their type of wokeism, right? They're very hateful people. I show this all the time when there's certain months and things like that where there are people getting on soapboxes and being very hateful, calling all kinds of other people names if they don't go along with what they believe. And that's not the way that it's supposed to be. So Charlie Kirk goes into universities where people are being indoctrinated with this stuff and simply wants to have conversations with people, right? And we played this on yesterday's show, but I think that's good to replay. Like, a lot of people are hearing about who he is and stuff, and they're just being told that he's all these names and stuff, but just hear it from the horse's mouth.
Are you truthfully here to try to change people's minds, or is there kind of a benefit to keeping people divided?
How am I dividing people if I ask you if you disagree, you come to the mic? How is that divisive?
Well, no, I'm just saying it's like you have these clickbaity titles. It says prove me wrong. What is a woman? You're dividing things very black and white.
What is a woman is not a clickbaity title.
I think it is.
What is a woman?
I'm not trying to answer that. Your critics are saying that you're trying to keep people divided. They're urging people not to come talk to you because you're going to spin it. What would you like to say to your critics?
They're welcome to come to the microphone and say whatever they want to me, but they're intellectual cowards and they won't do that. You know how we heal our divides? By talking to people we disagree with.
I would agree with that.
We will get closer to a civil war if we act like that. We just yell at people we don't like. That's how you get closer to dividing the country. You heal the country when you allow disagreement and you allow a microphone with people that have differing views.
Are you truthfully like here to try to change people's minds, or is
Right? So can you disagree with what he said there? And if you don't disagree with what he said there, if you listen to more of what he said, I'm sure you would agree with more than you disagree with. He was very, very conservative and very Christian. So that is where he's coming from. I would encourage and invite everyone to, now that I guess more than ever, there's more Charlie Kirk out there than there's ever been because of what just happened to him, and encourage everyone to just take some time and actually listen to him and make up your own mind. Like start making up your own mind, not having it made up for you, because that's what our society is getting very, very good at, and getting better at it each and every day. It's really good to just read things for yourself, look at things for yourself, think for yourself, come up with your own conclusions. And the more that we have out there, and I even feel if I hear someone spewing hate, true hate towards somebody, I'm able to see that. Like, because they're spewing hate, I don't go, oh, yeah, and listen to it and believe it. You're not supposed to do that to anything. So to me, I think allow everything to be out there, and haters will hate, and let them do it, and let everyone see it for what it is. The more we try and create a society of people that are critical thinkers, who think for themselves, who are able to discern between truth and error, we will then be a more fulfilled society. And then you have less police, less government having to get in your life and police everything. You know, we're going to end up in a police state, because everybody's like, they can't do that. You got to stop them. You know, speed cameras, they can't, all this stuff, like just cameras everywhere. Make everyone live all the laws. It's going to be a police state. Listen to everything anyone is saying, and then we're going to get into the point where you're going to arrest someone because AI is telling them you were about to commit a crime. That's where we're getting in our society, right? So if you don't want to be a part of that, unplug from the matrix, start thinking for yourself, or at least plug in, but be a critical thinker and don't just believe everything you hear on any side, anytime, for any reason. And that's our show for the day. We'll be back tomorrow. I think Bob Johnston and Tom Price are going to join us again tomorrow. So we look forward to that. And then there will not be a show on Thursday and Friday. Unfortunately, I'll be traveling. And so tomorrow will be our final show for the week. And remember to stay tuned tomorrow for that interview that we're going to have. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. And we'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.